Hey everyone, Arthur Fantastic here, and today we are talking about Kyle Snyder, his recent arrest and court date, which happened today, May 19th. This is the date of recording this video. Again, we're talking about something that a lot of people don't seem to want to discuss because it is so taboo. To discuss it would be to then reveal something bad about you, even because if we discussed it reasonably and logically, it would go against the grain of the accepted cultural norm that we have today, despite it having no discernible foundation outside of the Christian worldview. We're going to get into all of this and more in this video. If you like this content, if you like what is going on in these discussions, if you agree, if you disagree, sound off in the comments. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Arthur Fantastic on IG, 1K instead of IC. Holler at your boy. And let us begin this discussion. Now, for those who don't know, Kyle Snyder is those who don't know Kyle Snyder is the youngest wrestling Olympic champion in U.S. wrestling history for his win in Rio. He is one of the greatest of all time in terms of wrestling at his weight class and in wrestling in general. He's done a lot of great work. From every person that's ever spoke about him previous and even during this, they have only positive things to say about the man. For those who are not sure what I'm talking about in terms of Kyle Snyder's arrest, Kyle Snyder was recently arrested in a prostitution sting. He was arrested answering an ad online about a woman who posted an ad for prostitution. Now, in terms of what the ad was, it was about another consenting adult meeting up for a financial transaction for sex. This was all done in an attempt to get Johns to answer this ad and then bring them in. Now, my first comment on this is we look at the situation and we look at the pieces and we see the best of government spending and the worst of government spending. The best of government spending, we have Olympic world champion. There is definitely funding from the government in his process to where he is now, Kyle Snyder, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And then we see the worst of spending, which is we've employed several government officials to create a fake prostitution ad and then catch people who are trying to patronize these prostitutes. Okay, and this was an attempt to drive down prostitution. If you want to drive down prostitution, why aren't you catching the actual prostitutes and the pimps? In what way did this help anyone other than put them in the system and give them a fee of which they now have to pay? So Kyle Snyder went to court, pleaded guilty, got fourth degree misdemeanor disorderly conduct. Instead, originally it was for participating in prostitution, but that was what he pleaded guilty to. This is like Kyle Snyder, who has a lot of money, you know what I mean, who's done well for himself. He's like the first athlete, from what I heard Chael Sonnen say, that they put money in escrow for him while he was wrestling in college so that he can have the money that he would have earned through sponsorships, etc. after he graduated. Made over $1 million this way. This guy has good legal representation and good standing in the community. I wonder what's going on with these other people who are involved with this. They call it a prostitution ring, but it wasn't a prostitution ring. It was a fake ad, and people answered it. And You know, I could see some outrage if it was with like, okay, this is blatantly, he's going to some, answering an ad that's blatantly, oh, this is seedy, this person is being trafficked, this person is not doing it of their own volition, it's against their will. If it was like a minor, like all up in arms, we should be. But as I've discussed in the J-Rod stuff, as I've discussed on this channel and my other channel, unless we are appealing to the Christian worldview, what exactly is wrong with two consenting adults who are healthy, willing to enter into this transaction? There's nothing outside of the Christian worldview. I mean, two adults consenting. I mean, if we look in what we see in today's society in terms of how much prostitution, how prevalent it is. Not only do you have these girls, the working girls, the pros, the prots on the street, you also have, and I know this because of Law and Order SVU, you also have the women that are putting ads online. Now, the reason why Kyle Snyder knows that he can answer this ad and go try to do this thing is because it is so prevalent in dating apps and various other places on the internet, X, to offer meetups. Like, oh, this is only for meetups. And there's no crackdown on this. It is very common. In fact, OnlyFans models are offering meetups. There's no crackdown on this. In fact, strippers and porn stars offer meetups. And these meetups include sexual intercourse. And in what way is this inappropriate for Kyle to do this, answering a consenting adult's ad, and all these other women who are blatantly and boldly doing it? Why is there no crackdown? Because, as I said before, the sexuality of men in this culture, in this society, is absolutely shamed and repressed because, man, ew. But I see all the time, in addition to women offering meetups and all these different type of things, but also male masseuses that massage women naked in intimate positions, and with many of them implying that they had sex. So they're paying this masseuse, they get in the mood because of the mood, and they have sex with the masseuse. They're paying a gigolo, they're paying a male prostitute. Is there any crackdown on this? No. It is this, in fact, this huge thing among some groups in like TikTok and Instagram where, oh yeah, I have to go get that that massage with that guy and his wife, and then and then it goes down this this road of degeneracy because it's prostitution. And I think it's important to note that, first off, Kyle Snyder, top 1% in the world, less than top 0.01% athlete in the world, probably top 0.0 testosterone in the world. He's a man, and we can't accept or discuss that men like sex. If a man has porn, he gets kicked from, despite being top 1% athlete, gets kicked from his team because his ex did not like it and made it public. That's my summary of what happened in the J-Rod ban so far. If more comes out, maybe there is more. That is all I understand from what has happened. And of course, men are shamed in this culture, in this society. So it's not a surprise that when Kyle Snyder, despite being an athlete that travels for his job, when this is happening, I'm seeing ads for him participating in Final X. I hope he's going to be there anyway, despite what happened. But I understand if he pulls out, if there's some type of reason. But I think that as the type of athlete and mental position that he is as an athlete, who is going to still be at Final X, and I hope to see him there. But if he doesn't understand, he might have been really taken out, might probably have problems with the wife, which I'll also discuss in a moment. But these road athletes, we know what they're doing. We know what they're doing. And if you're not going to travel with your husband, we know what famous football players and famous basketball players are doing. And it's only like spurned lovers that come out, and all of a sudden it's all these allegations. And then we come to find out that that's not the case over and over again. Over and over again, these people are completely exonerated. They weren't there. Or it's obvious from camera footage that they were, and text messages, that this was consensual. But because he is already in a relationship, and there's some type of underlying Christian worldview that people like to deny, they're like, oh, that's wrong. How dare he do this? In the secular worldview, they don't really have a position of what he ought to do and why that is wrong. And that's really important that I bring it up, because this world is projecting and presenting itself as secular. And Kyle Snyder may be Christian and present himself as Christian, and though Christians are not perfect, they follow Christ, who is perfect, and that he may stumble. Is it the place for the society to really be judging Kyle Snyder as it is? Okay, men like sex. They, in fact, during the court case, appearance today, they were like, "Oh, did you attend John's school?" John being a person that is a patron of a prostitute. I attended John's school, and I learned that the reason I did this is because of my pride. No, you did this because you're a dude that likes sex. And let's not fucking get it twisted. And unless we are going to legislate morality in a Christian lens, there is no way or place for the law to fucking put themselves in this financial exchange. Or are we going to say that sex is sacred and it should be treated as such? Which is fine, good. Then let's have that conversation. But that's not the conversation that we're having. Now, if we're going to switch gears here, it is my opinion that prostitution at this level and degree, or at all, only exists in monogamous societies. Going back to places like Babylon and Greece and Rome. These are the societies of antiquity that had monogamous cultures. The Hebrews are built on polygyny. The 12 tribes of Israel. Israel is Jacob. He had 4 wives, of which he had 12 children. God himself in Ezekiel 23, Jeremiah 3, verse 8 to 10, Jeremiah 31, verse 33, all have God presenting himself as a polygynist. And this because these cultures were polygynous. It's literally allowed in Exodus 21. Prostitution, on the other hand, is disallowed. It's prohibited. And it says in Leviticus 19:29 that if you give your daughter up to prostitution, the land will be prostituted, and it will be filled with depravity. Look at the world around you that is upheld by fucking OnlyFans models and social media thoughts, and we try to move the sport forward for women, and it's only about them hiking up their fucking their leggings up as high as possible, and it is very few times about the technical wizardry of women, and that's another discussion for another day, but it is what it is. And because we see Kyle Snyder getting caught doing this, right, being lured in by a non-existent thing that they're trying to then fight, which is like saying, oh, it's really bad to have people selling beer to other adults on the street. So what we're going to do is we're going to have adult undercover adult go and sell to other adults beer. And then when they buy it, be like, gotcha, this is not a good thing. Why? Demonstrate why it's not a good thing. But they don't have to, because they don't even want to look at the underlying assumption of Christianity, because there's nothing in libertarianism or capitalism or Marxism or any type of other ism without Christ or Islam or Judaism that will say, because even like Buddhism and Hinduism and Shintoism, these all explicitly allow, if not involve, temple prostitutes, which goes back to like Greece and Babylon as well as Rome, where this is the case because the leftover women that are not married are left to their own devices. And even today, like people say, oh, that's a problem back then. Even today, with women having the freedom that they have, there is a large portion of women that are selling their body to one degree or other sexually, which is prostitution, via the internet or through a number of channels, via Snapchat and Telegram and X and all these other subscriptions like OnlyFans. And this is depravity. This is what we have is not good. And no one is going to say, oh, what Kyle Snyder did is good, especially other Christians, especially people that hold sanctity to the institution of marriage. But if it were the case that polygyny were involved in the culture that we have today, there would be a lot less incentive to be a prostitute. There are prostitutes in ancient lands of the Hebrews, but this was a thing that was shamed and not allowed, and usually done by the destitute. And the destitute were supposed to be helped, whether they were the widow or the orphan. And something that was not to be allowed is not good. Like, very few people who are actually there's only like the daughter of a priest that is punished for prostituting herself specifically. There is another passage in Deuteronomy that says that if a woman drinks of this particular thing, or rather, no, it was a case that if a woman says that she is a virgin when she gets married, says that she's a virgin, she's presenting herself as a virgin, but she's not, and then the man says, they get together and wait, you're not a virgin, and she had lied, and then he says, you lied, you take this to the elders or whatever. And we find out, okay, oh, she wasn't a virgin because of this covenant that had been cut and the lying. There is the prescription of execution at her father's house because she has prostituted herself while in her father's house. But that's not about prostitution, and nor is it about only virgins are allowed to marry. It's about the presentation of virginity when they were married and it being false. It's a lie. And then the man finding out in some sort of way, and then him bringing this grievance to people, and then on top of that, the elders then, if they confirm that this is true, then passing that prescription, which is not necessarily the case, especially if we look into the records kept by the Yahudim, which is what we call the Jews today, and their cases where this has actually come up. That's a long tangent just to say that this is only occurring because of a monogamous culture. In any other culture, this top 0.01% man could have multiple wives. He definitely has the money to do so, has the time and energy to do so, is in a place where he can help multiple women be covered, because there are more women than men, flat out. Men are less likely to make it further in adulthood. They're more likely to die younger, self-delete, die on the job, etc., etc. And so these uncovered women who don't even have a chance to be paired up with another man, because in addition to these men dying, there's men who only like other men, there are men in prison, there are men who are incapable of reproducing and thus disqualifies them to a lot of women who want to have families. And you know, there's men that aren't attractive. There's men that aren't up to standard to what a woman wants, even though there is a lot of discussion on that should be that could be discussed. There's a lot on that topic that could be discussed. It is, to my conclusion, that the way that we even view marriage as this monogamous only thing is a novel thing that has only existed for maybe 100 years in America, still with pockets practicing polygyny. There's other parts of the world, Africa, Asia, that practice polygyny, South America, that have small cultures like that. And by novel, I mean the idea of issuing marriage certificates. This is a new practice that only began somewhere between the 1940s and 1960s. I forget the exact date. Yes, that's very, very recent. That is less than 100 years. And the reason why they started issuing marriage certificates in the first place was to prohibit interracial marriage. Wrap your head around that one. Before that, there's no such thing as a marriage certificate. There's no marriage certificate in the Bible. There's only a writ of divorce, by the way. There is no, oh, I got this piece of paper for legal reasons. I mean, there is so much more to what's going on than obviously some legal thing. But that in itself is key to understanding how we view this enforced monogamous society today. When we see the practice of modern culture, society, and the dating market, we see women practice hypergamy. Hypergamy is the idea that 90% of women are pursuing the top 10% of men. Others say 80% of women are pursuing the top 20% of men. And this in itself is reflective of modern society's obsession with side chicks and the 6 foot, 6-figure, debonair secret spy agent who's well spoken but also a little hood, who is has neck tattoos but their mother loves, and is also aloof but also emotionally available and financially available whenever she needs it. That chasing that almost unreasonably almost non-existent man, they end up being side chicks, and they are strung along in a way, usually by their own idea of, oh, maybe he'll be able to do this for eventually, you know what I mean? And I believe in our blah, blah, blah. It's not usually the guy that's like leading her on or something like that, but that also exists. That's also probably half, you know what I mean? And the other one's half, you know. That exists in our culture today, and women are like, yeah, be the side chick. Every friggin' Medea Tyler Perry movie is about the side chick. But I digress. I digress there a whole bunch. We look at I made a Tyler Perry reference. That's a first for this channel. And this whole side chick thing and this whole prostitution thing is just polygyny with extra steps and with less rights for women. Okay? I just wanted to conclude that in the end, is that side chicks and prots have less rights than a wife, obviously, and yet there are people that are like, yes, queen, do your meetups and your OnlyFans, and also, yes, be that side chick when there could be multiple wives, and there could be less of what is happening here in the case of Kyle Snyder, where let's say what a lot of people won't say, but it's obvious on the mind of some people, is that what is happening at home, that he needs to go to a pro. And in addition to him needing to go to a pro, not needing, like, let me not friggin' make this a need that I can just then right away for him because he needs it, but that he got to this degree where he needed to go see a pro. What's going on at home? Is the wife doing her wifely duties, as in 1 Corinthians 7? Is she doing the marital duty? Which is also, by the way, in Exodus 21:10, which is the same said passage that allows polygamy. By God, I know this is weird place to mention this, and we're having a Christian conversation, but this is my channel, and I don't give a fuck. This is what I like to talk about. And now that we're on this road where we're asking what's going on at home, this whole, to a larger degree, society, we have to understand that men like sex, and they have needs or sexual desires that are strong. Let me keep saying needs. Women get to say that they have needs, but I don't think that those are needs either. I think that's bullshit, and also why we have a single mother problem. But I'm getting off track, but everything is kind of connecting to this issue of what's going on at the home of Kyle Snyder, that he needs to go to a pro. Is the wife going to leave him? Society would say, oh, you can leave him. Even most Christianity, which is it misled, let's just say, is going to say, oh, she should leave him, and wreck her own home, that is, and create another single mother, even though this guy has the same urges that every other fucking high value man has, and options that they do. And there is a society that shames them and makes them hide all this stuff, while also limiting the options for them to have multiple wives, and then creates little traps for them to fall in when they go see what they think is a consenting adult trying to make a financial exchange. That it's if they filmed it, would that be okay? If they were filming it, would it be okay then? That's how they get away with it. The guy that does the male masseuse, that has sex with the chicks that he has a massage date with, essentially. They film it. It doesn't count because it's porn. It's porn, guys. That's the depravity we live in today. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Oh, I have a camera here. Oh, well, do you have a permit? Now they're just gonna get fined for a permit. Now it's not prostitution. It's finding for a permit that you didn't have to fucking film. All right. So fucking national treasure, top 0.01% athlete with the fucking testosterone to match, who has been fucking thrown in like a wild lion into a cage, is in an enforced monogamous culture, and he is not going to step on his wife and create another relationship because this is going to respect her, and instead is going to see a pro, which I feel is just as fucking dangerous. He better get tested after all this, right? We get a trap, and then the government is going to step into this fucking relationship. The government's going to step in and fucking say, you know what I mean? Why? What is it doing? For what reason? On what grounds does it stand? And this is just going to fucking ruin this guy's life and a reputation. And maybe he'll fucking bounce from it. Maybe there's been so much fucking fatigue that he'll be able to bounce from it on this sort of subject. But you know, things do tend to disappear with a long enough time. People forget. But as of right now, with him, you know, not even 30 yet, prime of his life, this is not going to fucking bode well for things for him. And you know, Godspeed to his family, Godspeed to him. I will pray for them. Um, Shout out to Rageaholic, because he says Godspeed, but that's not the origin of Godspeed. But nonetheless, shout out to him. I just don't I don't know what else to say on the whole matter. Kyle Snyder deserved better. So does his family. This could have been also handled by the family, and now it's going to be held by the fucking public and the larger community. Everybody knows, you know, and because of that culture that we discuss here, it's not gonna be a positive experience for these people going forward, and unfortunate for that whole family, not Kyle Snyder. You know what I mean? You made your bed, lay in it, you know, but that family's gonna get the fallout. And what are your thoughts? Should government be just setting traps for people to walk in, putting a fucking literal like trail of candy underneath a little basket, and when you go underneath the basket, you make the basket fall on the animal type shit? Like this is fucking Family Guy. Is that what we're paying the government to do? Um, do you think that Kyle Snyder needs to drop out of Final X? Does he need to make some kind of public amends? What do you think his wife should do? What do you think should like? I support them. I hope that this family stays together and cohesive. Um, but time will tell, and you gotta send your prayers up. As I always say, stay up, stay vigilant, stay locked and loaded, stay brutal. Shalom, shalom, peace. In.